I recognize the Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate your patience with all of us today. Appreciate the questions from the Leader of the Opposition. I'll thank my officials in a moment, but just in terms of a wrap-up, I note that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition provided some advice at the end of his closing remarks. Interestingly enough, I think the very last bit of advice was don't look back. It strikes me honestly that between himself and the Deputy Leader, most of these questions they've asked have been, a lot of them I should say, have been looking back, frankly, and you know, we've had a good debate around some issues to move forward, and I think we share a lot of the same priorities. The water infrastructure piece is one of them. Here recently, the piece around Aboriginal education and their engagement in the economy these are priorities that we all share in this Assembly. We may differ in terms of the way to deal with them most effectively, but I will say that I appreciate his advice. We will work hard to make sure we're focused on the future, that we're not looking back. And if I may, I think that advice applies to all members in this House. It might even apply to the Leader of the Opposition himself, whose article in the most recent Commonwealth was called "The NDP Must Focus on the Road Ahead" as the headline, but he quotes a poem. It's a great poem by a Saskatchewan poet called "The Rearview Mirror," Mr. Chair. And I would offer this advice to him. If the New Democratic Party wants to take the road ahead, they may want to avoid looking in the rearview mirror, because back home in Swift Current we call that crashing, Mr. Chairman. It is absolutely essential that nobody in this province, on either side of this House, take anything for granted in terms of the current economic standing that we enjoy. It's also important that we recognize outside factors that are responsible for that, for the economic standing we enjoy. He also counseled myself and members on this side of the House just now to take responsibility for the economy. Well, Mr. Chairman, and the province and its economy. I'll tell you this: we don't take credit for what's going on in the economy, but you bet we'll take responsibility as a government that has campaigned just a few months ago on a plan to keep the economic momentum of this province moving forward. Not just for the sake of a growing economy, but because we know what that growing economy will pay for in terms of health care and education and infrastructure. Mr. Chairman, I can assure the member opposite that we have taken that advice. That advice has come from him today, but it actually came from the people of the province of Saskatchewan over our first 4 years, culminating in an election campaign where they very, very clearly said to, I think, both parties, and I hope both were listening, we want you to keep this province moving forward in a steady way. You ought not to be shocking the economy with royalty changes. You ought to live within your means and balance the budget. You ought to continue to do everything you can to put this province in a leadership position so that First Nations are better engaged in the economy, so that people are coming home, kids are coming home from Calgary, and so that people can come all the way from Ireland and find their hope right here in the province of Saskatchewan. Mr. Chairman, we hear that advice from him, and even more importantly, we've heard it from the people of this province. We will take their advice. We will work earnestly not to let them down, Mr. Chairman, to keep the promises we've made and to keep the province moving forward. Thanks for your time today.